And we are live again. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Soul Survivor podcast. Ryan and I are back to discuss and preview the Survivor 47 cast, which is now released. One of the best days that happens twice a year, and it is cast release day. We are here. We're back recapping. We're back podcasting after about a 2.5-month break. How are you doing, Ryan?
Dylan, it's always great to be back. It's like Christmas morning, it's always fun for the finale. It's always fun for the premiere. But, what could be more fun than seeing and getting to meet all of the new faces we're going to see playing Survivor for Survivor 40 several. So I'm very excited to dive into these 18 new players and kind of see what they're all about.
Yes, I'm very excited as well. I read through all these bios already. I didn't watch the videos. I read through all the bios, and my immediate reaction to this was this could be one of the most athletic casts that we've had in a very long time. So very curious to see how that goes, but excited to dive deep into each player individually.
Yeah, no, I got a similar vibe from the cast. They seem overall pretty well-rounded. Like even people who, just describe themselves as, whether it's like nerdy or offbeat or whatever the case is, or they have, certain occupations, they followed up with, I did this race or I did this marathon. I lost this much weight. I put on the muscle. So a lot of people, I think you said, are pretty well-rounded. And also there's a couple of other common threads here that it'll be really interesting to see if they play out.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see what happens with this season. Let's dive into the cast. Ready to go?
Sure. Do you want to do what we normally do, where we each take a couple, we read it out, then the other person reacts?
Yeah. I'll take the first few, and then I'll hand it over to you to do a few more, and then we'll switch off.
Sounds good.
All right. We got Teeny first. Teeny, 24 years old, from New Jersey, a freelance writer, describes as social, mischievous, and introspective. Wants to play Survivor since it was simply a calling. Wore a buff each day of high school. Forced coworkers to vote each other out. Absolute Survivor super fan. Which previous player do you identify with the most? Elaine, Evie, and Ty are the players I identify with the most. I'll play most like Mike White with a dash of Fabio and a sprinkle of Courtney Yates. If you get it, you get it. Safe to say, Teeny is a huge super fan here. Here we go. So alliance partner, yeah. We're gonna just like skim through a little bit. The bios are actually like longer than normal, so I don't want to. I don't want to like bore people just by reading this entire thing. I'm just gonna, pick the most interesting parts. Favorite hobbies: writing, thrifting, reading nonfiction, the internet, Planet Fitness, and legit Survivor. Again, huge super fan here. Did a 18-mile unicycle race in 5th grade. I didn't know that those existed.
I didn't know either.
Let's see. Biggest inspiration is mom. And why will you be Soul Survivor? Because people like me and I like people. My strategic and physical attributes will be underestimated, but sharp. My social game is going to be killer.
So Teeny, I think Teeny has. I feel like I've used this expression in the past before, where I say someone is like a high variance player, where I could see them have a whole variety of outcomes. Like somebody we'll get to later, Andy. I think Andy is your typical player that we see get to the merge, whereas I feel like Teeny's a player that I always say high variance. They could go out early, they could be a sneaky pick and go far. I really don't know. We'll go at the very end of this podcast. We'll talk about the tribe divisions and maybe some of those early thoughts. I think Teeny is the youngest one on their tribe. And, I always feel like with age, I always like to say the sweet spot for Survivor, in my opinion, personally, is like the late 20s, early 30s, like the age range where, Dee, Jam, Erica, then Marianne actually was skewed a bit younger, and obviously Gabler skewed a bit older. But most of our most recent winners, and I think Kenzie is like 29. So most of our recent winners are in that later age range. Teeny's 24. Probably looking at her tribe is not the most, physically dominant. So obviously, like I said, high variance of outcomes. But I think if Teeny feels they'll be underestimated and they can really have a great social game and have good strategical and physical attributes, could potentially do well.
Yep. All right. On to the next. We have Rome, who is 30 years old, from Corvallis, Oregon, now lives in Phoenix, Arizona. Occupation, one of the weirder ones we've had, an esports commentator. Describes himself as charismatic, entertaining, and cutthroat. Wants to be part of Survivor because it's a game that you could play in real life. And he has a chance to win $1 million. Says that fully tearing his Achilles has prepared him for this game. There's no pain and suffering that he will not be able to get through. Identifies with Sean Rector and Todd the most. He will truly play the game, though, like Cook Island's Ozzy. He wants to be known as one of the greatest challenge beasts of all time. He values somebody that's bad at talking publicly so he could beat them at Final Tribal and blind loyalty. I thought that was a very interesting answer. I'm not sure if anybody's ever picked an alliance partner on if they're bad at talking publicly. Says his hobbies are obviously playing video games while listening to podcasts. Maybe he listens to the show. Pet peeves you don't need to go through. Says that he was a commentator for a $2 million Fortnite tournament in Saudi Arabia. So that was it says, hold on, then being chosen. Okay, yeah, he broadcasted live from Saudi Arabia for an esports tournament. That's pretty cool. Hasn't eaten a vegetable other than corn in 2 decades. He wants to be the next host of Survivor when Jeff retires. So really big goals here for Rome. Specifically says, and it's funny because I believe that these cast bios were done not before the end of 46. So I'm curious to know like what the last episode they saw was, because so many players were like, I will play my idols. So I don't know what the last episode they saw was, but clearly this was fresh in their mind. He says he'll win Soul Survivor because he'll play his idols. He will win at least 4 individual immunity challenges, and he has a way with words, getting people to do what he wants. And he has an anyone but me mentality. What do you think of Rome?
So, okay, first of all, I think that's so funny about the Play the Idols. I do think when they went out to go film 47, I feel like we did actually finish up 46. So I want to say that they did see it, but I could be completely wrong. Obviously, that makes a lot of sense that they saw, again, famously 4 people in a row in 46 go out back to back to back to back, all with idols. I really liked Rome. I looked at most of the bios, but I got through all the videos. I thought Rome had a really fun personality. And I think it's also very ironic, Dylan, that he says that he wants to have an alliance member that he could beat at Final Tribal that is bad at talking. I think he picked probably the worst season for this, because I feel like half the cast, Dylan, is either a writer or a podcast host, or people have a lot of ways with words in this season, whether it's Rome or whether it's John or Asia or whoever. So I really feel like you're going to find a lot of people who are going to be tough to beat in terms of public speaking. But I thought he had a really fun personality. He's going to have like that gift of gab that like he has as an esports commentator. I think he could be fun.
Yes, I'm excited to watch him for sure. It's an interesting point you made. I've noticed that a lot of people have occupations where they need to talk, and it makes sense because those people are probably really good on camera, right?
Yep.
All right, Anika. From California, 26 years old, is a marketing manager, describes herself as exuberant, curious, and calculated. Says that first episode she watched was season 28, and she's immediately wanted to apply because it's the most epic game ever to exist. She's correct. Her whole life is made up of moments that have prepared her to play Survivor. One experience was when she lost her family home and important things due to a wildfire in California. She was thankful to get out alive. That mentally prepared her. That's for sure a taxing experience. She says, these always make us laugh every time. Players to identify with. She says that she could be blunt and straightforward like Queen Sandra. She could persuade people like Queen Parvati, but she'll most play like Queen Sarah in Game Changers. Someone who is socially aligned with most players, someone who people will trust, who will get advantages, and somebody who is able to deflect being a threat to others. So she's going to play like a combination of all the best players of all time. she chooses to align with somebody who people gave a lot of these similar answers for alliance members. It's like, all right, purely based on gut feeling and intuition, value somebody who's interested in cooperating pool of information together. Even if they vote differently, she wants to trust and respect them. Then, okay, pet peeves. When people leave the water running, people who aren't spatially aware in crowded spaces. Good luck to her sleeping in the in the shelter. Slow drivers in the left lane. She said that her favorite accomplishment that she's most proud of is actually getting on Survivor. She loves to sing anytime, any place. Um, Also, she's painfully tone deaf, so I'm slightly worried that she could potentially be. I'm slightly worried about if she is annoying because of that. Her mom is her biggest inspiration. I literally think that like 75% of the people on this cast said that. She said she will win Survivor because she's an all-around player, an extrovert who could listen and remember very well. I can get people to open up about themselves comfortably, strategically. She'll make small moves such as keeping camp clean, look natural when I'm putting in work. When I put in big moves, I won't boast them. I'm flexible and can adapt to various scenarios in life. 2 skills necessary to do well in this game: a natural problem solver, no challenge beast, but good at puzzles, able to manipulate and deceive with a smile on her face. A lot there. That was a long
That
bio.
was a long bio.
Yeah, quickly before you go, my initial reaction to Anika is that she's going to be very like outgoing and loud. Based on how much she talked about in her bio, 2, the fact that she basically described herself as somebody who could sing anywhere. So in my mind, it's like, hopefully that doesn't come back to bite her, because especially early when you're trying to find somebody to vote out, I know that could be a factor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Really quickly, actually, before I give my quick thoughts on Anika, I completely forgot to mention with Rome for one quick second. When you mentioned his favorite players, Sean and Todd, great answers, and that just tells me that he's a super fan, because you're a fan if you mention Todd Herzog, you're a super fan if you mention Sean Rector. Like that's a deep pull. People are not pulling out Sean Rector references in 2024. So high hopes for Rome. But to get back to Anika, I watched her video, Dylan, and she definitely came off as very confident. So, like you mentioned, how is she going to integrate with her tribe? Are they going to, resonate with her, and are they going to maybe want to align with her so that way she's more of like a figurehead, and they can kind of hide behind her in the alliance? Or are they going to, as you mentioned, maybe be a little bit put off and say, you know what, we're looking for some name early on. Let's just put her name forward. I think in Survivor, you need to have some confidence, but you also need to have like that humility. It's the same thing as like paranoia. Past players have always said, you can't be obviously too paranoid because they'll vote you out. But if you're not paranoid and you're completely like complacent, then that's where you get blindsided. So I think you need the right blend of confidence along with a little bit of paranoia. So if she can keep the paranoia in check, hopefully she can go far. But if she can't keep the paranoia or the confidence down, then that could spell trouble.
For sure. Next, we have TK Foster. He is 31 years old, from Maryland, and is an athlete marketing manager. And again, keep in mind, as I said before, how athletic this cast is. I mean, we have so many people who either work in sports or have described themselves as an athlete. We have somebody already, so far, 2 of the 4 people. One of them is an athlete marketing manager. The other one wants to win guarantees he's going to win at least 4 individual immunity challenges. So again, something to watch out for.
Yeah.
Describes himself as spontaneous, genuine, and ambitious. Felt like his entire life led him to this moment. Said his dad was in prison from a very young age. He was diagnosed himself with a kidney disease that almost killed him in high school. So he beat the odds, and he is now here. Then also he says that beating the kidney disease prepared him for this game. He learned how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. He was almost in intensive care unit for 2 months, which led to a mental state that can't be drained. His favorite player is Tony, but he thinks he'll play like a Caleb also, but hopefully make it much deeper than him. He values authenticity and trust. He loves watching football, going to the gym, playing his Xbox. Doesn't like unmotivated people, people who think they know everything, somebody who's talking over him, and bad hygiene. Good luck to him with everybody on the island there. So his accomplishment that he's most proud of is working in sports, because he was told that it would take years for him to get to that spot after he had to retire from football due to his illness. Says he's kind of a nerd at heart, though, which I think is good, because I think he'll be able to relate to like a lot of people out there, right? Like a wider variety of people. Mm-hmm. Says he's going to win Soul Survivor because he's going to put his mind to it. Once he gets a goal in sight, it's rare he doesn't achieve it. He knows the odds are against him, but that's the story of his life. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, no, I really, really like TK's video. He just had such great energy when I heard his first words. Like you just like find yourself smiling sometimes when certain people are talking. So had great vibes. I know you obviously, Dylan, would appreciate his bio with your sports background as well. And obviously we'll get to another player later, Sam, who has also some NFL connections. So I wonder if that bond will ever, come up. One is an athlete marketing manager. I think the other one is a reporter. So that NFL bond could be very interesting. But no, I think TK, like you said, obviously in great shape, could do really well in the challenges. To me, feels like somebody who, obviously threats could always go before the merge, but I feel like he should be hopefully in a good spot to make the merge. I have some pretty high hopes for TK.
As do I. I think he's going to be a player on the season for sure. All right. Tiana, I assume that's how you pronounce her name. Mm-hmm. And by the way, well, I'll read through the bio first.
Sure.
For everybody else. 27 years old, from Hawaii. I believe the second ever Hawaii contestant behind Cody. You could confirm that, Ryan. I'm pretty sure that.
I think so. I don't know for sure, but I think so.
3 words to describe her: adventurous, multi-passionate, and funny. When asked why she wants to be part of Survivor, she says, OMG, why don't I want to be on Survivor? She loves challenging herself. She wants to afford to live in Hawaii, being native there. She wants to show everyone Hawaii's more than aloha spirit. She loves this game. Says that she played a D1 athlete. Again, I'm going to keep hammering this point home. Pretty clear theme here in this cast. D1 athlete, played volleyball for Gonzaga and then sand volleyball at Utah. Learned how to work from a team, the value of hard work, leadership characteristics, ability to play with emotion, but not let it overtake strategy, rational thought. She resonates a lot with Parvati, like a lot of women do, because she used every part of herself to win. And one of the most interesting answers we ever have, in addition to Tiana saying she loves Parvati, she says, I also, in all caps, loved Gabler. He was consistently networking, but knew when to take a backseat. He listened and observed before making a move. He won individual immunity challenges, could read situations and people well. I think I'd be a stealthy chameleon, taking shape of mirroring whoever I am talking to. She wants open communication and an alliance partner. Hobbies are reading, yoga, hiking, going to the beach, travel, volleyball, pickleball, etc. Entitled people are her pet peeves. Loud talkers in public spaces, pessimistic people, and a few more. She's most proud of her relationship with her siblings. She also says she's a really deep thinker. You wouldn't know that from looking at her. Her biggest inspiration is her grandma, and she will win Soul Survivor because she is smart, tenacious, cutthroat, socially aware, has a magnetic personality, has the ability to make people feel comfortable, and can effortlessly make genuine connections with just about anybody. People have an easy time opening up to me, and I plan to use that intel against others. I want this more than anyone, and I will stay up finding 1,000 idols if I have to. All right, Ryan, ready for it? Tiana, as of now, is my winner pick.
Whoa!
Yes.
I'm going to be completely honest. By the way, just for the behind the scenes for people listening, Dylan texted myself and his brother, and he was like, I'm reading to the cast, you guys, in like 5 minutes in, or 5 people, and he's like, I think I've got my person. And I gotta be honest, because like I think I know your takes and like your thoughts pretty well. You could have given me, there's 18 people, you could have given me I think 12 or 13 guesses. I don't think I would have guessed Tiana.
Look, maybe my perception of winners is warped after watching Dee and Kenzie win back to back, but I really have high hopes for Tiana for a lot of reasons here. I think she is extremely well rounded. I also forgot to mention that she's a flight attendant, right? We've seen flight attendants do well, and I believe Todd was a flight attendant. Is that correct?
You're saying Todd?
Yeah, was he a flight attendant?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've seen, between him and Ricard, pretty good first and fifth, pretty good outcomes. So I think, like, her being a flight attendant, right? She clearly is going to be very good socially. When she got asked about what her biggest accomplishment was, she cited her relationship with her siblings. Like, that was what she was most proud of. I thought that was super interesting answer. Like, it's not something that I would think of as like an accomplishment, but like she sees it as that. Also says that she's a D1 athlete, so I expect her to be super good in the challenges. Thought it was really interesting, like her take on Gabler's game, right? She saw it like differently than Adept for sure we did. So I'm going to say that she is going to be in terms of, in baseball, they say, are you a 5-tool player? She will be a 3-tool player in Survivor. In terms of outwit, outlast, outplay. And I really think she has a, full package of just really like hitting on a bunch of different points that I look for when I'm looking for a winner. My only concern for her would be that I think that if she is truly as good athlete, really good socially, I could see her becoming a threat in some way in that sense, because people like that are very threatening. Like, people called out D for being a threat, and yet she got through it. She was good enough socially. That doesn't happen to everybody. So, but I'm super high on Tiana. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Tiana had a good bio. Obviously, the biggest knock I'll give her is that she mentioned that she likes Gabler. But other than that, no, I did like Tiana as well. I thought she had some fun energy. I watched her video, and she had a lot of energy. She actually made me jump out of my chair, because the video that I watched, Dylan, this account, Survivor Geek, he basically spliced all the videos together. So I see the Survivor logo, and then the next person's voice, like, cuts in for the first 2 seconds before it moves on to them. So I got to hear the voice for 2 seconds. She, instead of saying her first 2 words, like, she just yelled. So I like jumped out of my chair. But no, she had some fun energy. I think, like you just said, Tiana, great occupation, and a flight attendant. Like you said, we look for some of those occupations where you're dealing with people from all walks of life, like Kenzie last season, salon owner. And then again, Todd, flight attendant. Those jobs that you connect with a lot of people are going to be very helpful in a game where you're meeting people from all walks of life. I mean, you could even argue TK said the same thing actually in his video, where with being an athlete marketing manager, he's meeting recruits and athletes from all over the country. So I think when you engage with a lot of different people and you're not in a bubble, it's very beneficial. So I think Tiana could do well. And also, Dylan, you'll appreciate this too. Her hot take was that that the Liz and Q arguments, Q was absolutely in the right. Like, Liz, thought she deserved the food. Liz should have known. Dylan feels even better about his pick now. Dylan, I have to say it to you, but basically she's like, Liz, you know what starvation is. Like you should have known what you were getting into. So there you go.
All right, winner pick Tiana. Here we go. Ryan, want to take the next 5?
I'll take the next 5. Okay. So after Tiana, we have Rachel. Rachel is 34. Hometown of residence is Michigan. Is a graphic designer. Describes herself as down to earth, bubbly, and determined. She wants to be on Survivor because she found it when she and her husband put it on TV, and she was instantly captivated by the game. She thinks that she will identify or play most like, Kellen, I think Kellen is a pretty good player, underrated from Ghost Island. People, we always talk about, of course, Dylan, Dom and Wendell, but, Kellen had a pretty good foothold in the game for a while before, Dom and Wendell undermined her. So I think it's actually a pretty good choice. And listen, I'm never going to knock somebody who wants to play like Omer. Omer, I would say, other than Jesse, is one of my favorite new era players in terms of people who did not win the game. So if you can play like a mix of Kellen and Omer, it's a great skill set to have. And she did say, this is actually what's interesting, that she would value an alliance partner that will not be intimidated by her rapid way of thinking. Somebody that can take her word vomit and give it back to her and can balance out her thoughts. I will say really quickly to give my thoughts before I finish up, I think that's a very good observation, though, because, Dylan, I mean, what was Tony's secret weapon in Cagayan? it was Trish. Like Trish was there to balance out Tony's, wild behavior. And then what happens in 40, Dylan, he wins because he has kind of Sarah to help balance him out. And what happens in 34? He doesn't have that person to balance him and he flames out. So I will give Rachel credit that you have to know what your weaknesses are and hopefully someone can kind of ease you out. Obviously, the biggest con there, of course, is that she won't find someone on her starting tribe to balance out her rapid way of thinking, and then it kind of goes off the rails. So I think if she can find herself with the right people, she could do well. She just has to kind of find her niche. What do you think about Rachel?
Yeah, nothing to me like jumps off the page with Rachel. Like I don't like some of the other people. I really like their answers. There's nothing that like jumps out to me. Again, that doesn't mean anything. Like nothing jumped out to me when we looked at Dee's bio, and the next thing you know, she was potentially the best player of the new era. So not that means much, but like in terms of just like first impression, like graphic designer, like I don't know, like is that like really like a social job compared to others in this cast? Like not really. So we'll see. I think, like you said, I thought that was a good answer in terms of an alliance partner. It was super important. One of the like older people on this cast, I would say, right? 34 is, I guess, old for Survivor these days. Not really, but you get what I mean. There's so many people in their 20s these days. I don't think that'll be an issue at all, but I'm just an observation. Yeah, I don't really have too much on Rachel. Curious to see how she potentially proves me wrong.
Yeah, one last thing I'll say about Rachel before I move on is I think I agree. Like out of all the jobs we've seen on the cast so far, like you said, graphic designer doesn't immediately make you think, oh, connects with a lot of different people. One area that it could help her though is in the puzzles and kind of spotting out different things and what patterns to look for. I remember season 42, Jenny, and people were pretty high on Jenny before she got taken out in that crazy tribal, Dylan. I remember she helped her tribe win the Savvy Challenge, and she was, I think, good at the puzzle in the first challenge or two. So, look, I mean, she could be an asset for her tribe with the puzzles. So
that is a good point.
Because I think Jenny was also a graphic designer. So
yes, she was.
All right. Next is John, and John probably is, for most people, the most well-known player on this season, I would say. I feel like John not only is somebody who they're using a lot, Dylan, in the advertising, but between his podcast, which I'm not familiar with John's work, but based on his podcast, people seem to know who he is.
Yeah. I've seen as soon as the cast was revealed, like not the preview, I should say.
Yeah.
I immediately saw people talking about it. But yes.
So John is a podcast host from our stomping grounds of Long Island, but currently lives in LA. I'll give him credit. This was clever. His 3 words to describe you: opinions for days. He wants to be part of Survivor because it's all about the deprivation and the endurance and the puzzles and challenges, but it's also democracy. It ends in a vote, and the players decide what it means to earn that vote. I mean, this one was like a deep astrology poll. I feel like Kendra would like this from a few seasons ago, but he would identify with Penner with an Aubrey moon and Cochrane rising. I know that's all star signs in astrology. I don't know it that well.
Don't tell Q that.
Oh no, Q and John would be at each other's throats immediately.
Yeah. You can't tell Q about Aubrey, otherwise he'll get nervous about it.
Big mistake. God, I miss Q. His favorite hobbies are playing video games, crossword puzzles, hiking, seeing movies in the theater. I have a feeling Dylan's gonna have some thoughts on this, but pet peeves: too many to count, phones at a stoplight, people who cut a line and act confused. I'm constantly annoyed. So, as Dylan has said a couple times in this podcast so far, like, didn't you know what you were signing up for coming out here on Survivor? Dylan, this concerns me. What is something we would never know from looking at you? Astronaut Buzz Aldrin almost punched me in the face. And I got to just say, if we mean, and again, this is a guy who I think had some work with, writing some scripts for Obama, and he's a podcast host. He's talked to celebrities. If Buzz Aldrin, man who walks on the moon, is going to punch you in the face, I feel like that's a very, very bad sign for you meeting some complete strangers that are not celebrities on the island. So I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, Dylan. To me, he screams like Rick Devens 2.0, and I feel like he's going to be huge for the camera. And I feel like some people are going to love him, some people are going to hate him, and I feel like I could see him placing anywhere between like 4th and 9th. That's my thoughts.
Okay. I like this because I think we have like differing opinions here. I'm like pretty concerned for him.
I'm concerned too. Like, I just said that.
Right. Well. Yeah, but you said like 4th and 9th though.
Well. Okay. I think he could go far, but I don't think he's going to win. So
okay, that's fair. I could see like I have worry that he's a potential pre-merge guy, and the reason why is because like he literally only described himself as like opinions for days. He's a podcast host, right? I'm a little bit worried that he's going to be like too opinionated. He's mentioned that several times here, right? In Survivor, you got to know when to take a step back. You know, opinions can get on people's nerves. So I hope that maybe he's lucky. Maybe he is on a tribe of people that know who he is. And that helps him. I think that is something to watch out for. But yeah, I get worried. I do agree with what you said about Rick Devens. And by the way, Rick Devens would have been a pre-merge guy if it weren't for Edge of Extinction.
That's true.
Yeah. I do think you're right about Rick Devens in terms of like a camera guy. He's a guy that is going to get a ton of confessionals. But my guess is that I don't think he's long for this game. If I had to make a prediction, we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. And now, I mean, I don't want to walk back my thoughts already, but yeah, no, I mean, I agree that I am concerned. I think I was just saying 4th to 9th because I was just thinking about like that Devens Christian type of like, very, very like larger than life character that makes it far. But I also agree with you. Like you just made a great point. Like if it wasn't for EOE, Rick Devens would have been gone. So it's like, yeah, I do think John, while he's being the advertised player so far on our TV screens, I do feel like he could be in trouble early.
All righty.
All right. So next is Genevieve. Genevieve is 33 from Manitoba, which I believe is a Canadian province. So we have another Canadian. So we'll see if Genevieve can continue the Canadian trend. She is a corporate lawyer. And Dylan, she almost made me fall off my chair because in the video, the first thing she says is, she's like, I'm not good at lying. And I'm like, well, you're on Survivor and you're a lawyer. I'm a little concerned about that. But she does have self-awareness because she brings up 45 and she was like, people just saw Julie, Jake, and Katora all get to the final 6. So she's like, I'm not going to tell people I'm a lawyer. So she's kind of aware of that. Although you've heard my thoughts before. I still feel like people lying about their professions is just dumb.
She admits that she's not good at lying, but plans on lying about her profession.
Yeah, okay, basically, yeah. And I feel like the only profession you might want to lie about is being a police officer. But I feel like other than that, I don't see any logic to lying about your occupation. But she describes herself as energetic, friendly, and organized. She would describe herself, or I guess I would say a previous player she identifies with is Eliza, Chrissy, and Lindsay. I'm assuming that's Lindsay from 42. Pretty interesting combination there. I feel like I did not associate Eliza, Chrissy, and Lindsay with each other, but she says they're all strategic women who are direct. She values an alliance member who would be predictable for obvious reasons and a strong social game that's attractive to other players outside the group. So she wants someone to deliver her intel that she wouldn't be able to get. She enjoys airplanes. Sorry, I just I just combined the pet peeve with the hobby. Sorry, no, she does not like. She hates airports. Sorry, she likes video games and cooking recipes. She dislikes airports and people who hog the armrest. And why will you be the sole survivor? Towards the bottom is she connects easily with others and they won't hate living with me. So I think Genevieve, just to summarize it, I think will be fun to watch. Like you just said, a lawyer who is not good at lying, who's going to go out there and lie about being a lawyer. So I think Genevieve could be fun TV. Kind of a question mark. I'm not sure how she'll do, but yeah, those are my thoughts.
I don't have many thoughts. I think I would say I'm concerned based on what to be honest with you, I didn't have strong thoughts regardless. But then once you told me that she she said she's not good at lying, but also plans on lying immediately. I was like, all right, maybe she's a little bit like, I wouldn't say not self-aware, but like self-aware without taking steps to like execute that, if that makes sense. Like, why are you lying if you know you're not a good liar? Like, you should just be yourself. So I have some concerns, to say the least. But like you said, that'll be fun to see how that goes, right? Her lying. None of her answers completely jump off the page to me either. Obviously she's part of the Canada pipeline, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, I'm curious to see. I think that her best option in this game is just, being herself and being a good social player. So we'll see what happens.
I will give her credit. Her hot take, although she even says it's probably not a hot take at this point, she goes that she hates fire making. So that's where I gave her like the round of applause for that. All right, next up is Gabe. Gabe is 26, from Baltimore, Maryland. So his occupation is a radio show host. So again, another person who is in the podcast written word type of field. So a lot of good speakers on this season. Describes himself as opportunistic, resourceful, and blunt. He says that he's worked tons of jobs that many people were more qualified for, but he got very adept at selling people on himself. And those interviews translated great to getting on Survivor. A flag for me, Dylan, is whenever somebody can't just give me one person they'll play like, but they want to be the person that everyone wants to be before they even get out there. Because he says, I will resonate with some different players, but I want people to say, wow, I'm like Gabe. So that kind of raised a little bit of a flag for me. He likes live sporting events, poker and snowboarding. He hates passive aggression. And he says that he can read people better than anyone I know. And if I get an idol, I'm playing it, which I like, because again, we saw in 46 that backfired. But then again, Tiffany said she was going to play it and she wouldn't say anything, and look what happened. Gabe, I think, will be a lot of fun. I feel like, Dylan, you and I will enjoy watching Gabe. I think that I'm a little bit worried because I think he's going to go out there, all gas, no brakes, because he says that he's not out there to make friends. It's kind of cliche. But he's fine not making bonds, or he basically was like, if I'm not friends with him after the season, it's no skin off my back. I'll go back to my life, which I feel like, yes, you have to kind of see it as a business trip. You can't get too attached to people, but by the same token, if you're not going to open yourself up enough and people kind of see you being very transactional in a game about relationships, I don't think that's going to land particularly well. And I think he even mentions Russell in his video and also in his hot takes, because he even says with Russell, people talk about Russell's strategy, but they don't give him enough credit for being a loyal alliance member to Danielle and to Parvati and whatnot. But I'm like, well, he kind of turned on Danielle there. But the point though is that I think Gabe, no matter how he does, I think he'll be fun TV.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I don't know how long he is for this game. I do like his answer of he says he wants to be part of Survivor. The new era opened the door to write yourself in a new set of history books. He wants to make his mark before those books get written. And then also describes himself as opportunistic. So I'm like, all right, that kind of adds up. But at the same time, we also heard the same thing from Jelinski last season, and that went poorly. So we'll see.
Hey, Dylan, excuse you. Jelinski's a legend. Okay.
A legend in his own way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see on Gabe. I think he'll be a fun person to watch. I think he'll be potentially high in terms of confessionals with his radio show host job. Mm-hmm. And another person who I believe his radio show was potentially sports also, but I'm not positive on that. So that was interesting. But yeah, down to head to the next, which is Kyle.
Yep. All right. So I'll do one more for Kyle, then I'll give it to you for the next 5. So Kyle is 31 from, I'm going to butcher this, Sheboygan, Michigan. He's a construction worker. He describes himself as fun, ambitious, and creative. He wants to be part of Survivor to help inspire his children to change their wildest dreams. He wants to share some of his challenges in life to show others that just because life knocks you down does not mean you're not worthy of the journey. He feels like having traveled around the country for over 6 years of living in a van has kind of prepared him for the game. And I feel like, he's lived in, tough conditions before. Maybe he's kind of going to weather the storm, weather any challenges that come out there by being on Survivor. What previous player will you identify the most with or play like? Jesse, great answer. We love to see that. He basically wanted to win for his family, and that's what Kyle's out here doing as well. He does feel like he'll play a lot like JT, which, I mean, if he's talking about token change JT, great. I mean, I feel like the more we go on, some kind of diminishing returns on JT. So we'll see how that goes. But he also, Dylan, wants an alliance member who needs to be honest, even if it means that he's about to get the short end of the stick, somebody who can just give it to you straight. Pet peeves, people sneezing around him and hearing people chew food. And then he wants to be the sole survivor because he's pouring every ounce of heart and soul into this game. He's playing for his family. I feel like I had a couple like mixed bags on Kyle. I feel like I started out not sure how to feel about him. I felt like he kind of, I don't know, just looking at the rest of the cast, I feel like he kind of didn't, just off the cuff, didn't like click with the rest of them, or he just felt a little bit like different. But then I kind of just was hearing him talk about his family, and I feel like if he can resonate with others on his tribe, maybe they'll kind of like look past that. And I feel like a construction worker, he'll be helpful around camp early on. I'm looking at his tribe, and I feel like he's not that poorly positioned on his initial tribe based on the initial vibes, but I don't know. Again, I feel like with Kyle, I see a different range of outcomes. What do you think?
All right. If Tiana is my female winner, then I'm gonna say Kyle is my pick for male winner. It's a little bit off the map. I get a weirdly good feeling about him. I think I gave a really interesting answer down at the end. He said, when asked what is something we would never know from looking at you, he said, "You would never know the reason I strive to see people and help people be happy is because I don't want anybody to feel the pain that I felt in my life." So I thought that was really interesting. Like his like whole like demeanor and goal is to make others happy. He says here his biggest accomplishment was building his family a house with minimum to no help with anybody. He said, "It's one of my only projects that's made me question at times if I've bitten off more than I could chew." So this guy has really like gone out of his way to like not only and again, he van life guy. He says he is eating dinner with a range of from a dumpster with a hippie to out on $1 million yachts. I just feel like this is a guy who is like, and then compares himself to Jesse. And like when I think about it, I'm like, in a way, he has like such a weird, Jesse didn't have a weird story. Jesse had like a crazy story, right? Mm-hmm. Where I thought that was like, I was like, wow, that's wild. I remember Jesse described himself as like gang Christian if he was in a gang. Kyle, I feel like that others potentially are going to get along with him because he seems so out of his way in his life, has gone out of his way to help people. This is a guy that's going to build the shelter on day one, I guarantee. This is a guy that's going to go out of his way to make camp life easy for everybody. And it's also a guy who is, even though he's a construction worker, which is not exactly an occupation that you would point as like a social one, he's a guy that clearly has, interacted and spoke to so many people around the country before. And such a wide range of people. I think that he is going to be a very good player in this game. I think by looking at him, he doesn't necessarily appear to be like a threatening player in terms of like physicality, especially a cast where like I think there are going to be a lot of challenge beasts on this season that might be targets ahead of him. I think he could, stay in the shadows, and he'll be a guy that people just like. They keep around because he's great around camp. I'm huge on Kyle personally.
Yeah, no. I would say overall, if I had to like, do the whole pre-merge, post-merge, like initial thoughts, I feel like I see him, doing better. So.
Yep. All right. Now we have Keyshawn. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but 28 years old, ER doctor from California, describes himself as nurturing, composed, and adorable. He's been wanting to play Survivor for as long as he can remember. He, whether it was knowing who to trust as a closeted gay Indian American, waiting for the right moment to show the secret, to experiencing the hustle as a child of immigrant parents raised in his own family liquor store. That's a crazy story.
Yeah.
He says Survivor is the most chaotic, beautiful, complex reflection of individual identity. It's so fun. He wants to play most like Spencer and identifies as him, a geeky nerd who had an authentic yet devious charismatic while scheming under the radar until it's too late gameplay. Values somebody in an alliance partner who will disagree with him, but can still work with him. Which I think that's important. Favorite hobbies, binge watching Netflix, desserts, pastries, playing Wordle, New York Times games, pet peeves, slow walkers, loud chewers, thinking salt and pepper are seasonings. He says that as an ER doctor, his goal is always to been like better care for the vulnerable. So he says parents had 3 jobs at once. He did a last minute trip one time to Guatemala to hike a volcano and went skydiving. He says he will be sole survivor because he was raised with grit and respects hard work and never gives up. He says that since he has a fear of being ostracized due to being gay, he has intuition on who to trust and share info with, and he could thrive in chaos. Remain in control of any situation and the emergency department. He stays calm and focused with adversity, and for that, he will be sole survivor. I think that I think Keyshawn's story is super interesting. I think an ER doctor, I would say, is a good profession to have. Like, you're interacting with a ton of people. You are helping other people. So I think that he'll be somebody who like looks to help other people, right? Which is always good when trying to create alliances, create bonds. So I don't have too strong of an intuition on Keyshawn yet, personally, but there are some signs of things that I could see him being successful here.
Yeah, so Keyshawn, the thing that I'm worried about for him, and I'm always, I'm always going to root for a super fan, but what I worry about for him is that he's 28, but like he comes off in his video as like a very young 28. Like he obviously says that, people see him as adorable. And I think he gives off just like very young energy. And I think, whether you want to talk about like Zach from 42 or you want to talk about like, some other, young super fans, I think people are still scared of like the young super fan, like, the Adam Kleins of the world. And I think that if he comes off as, playing hard, or like he says he wants to play like Spencer, who obviously was a strategic player, but like obviously didn't, build the bonds at the end and didn't get the votes to win. I do worry about that a little bit. I'll give him credit that he wants somebody that maybe like he can disagree with, and basically he wants people to share their opinion. So maybe he kind of wants, again, like I said, with who was it? With Rachel, someone to kind of balance him out. I think that's a good way of looking at things. But yeah, I just think that he also, Dylan, he says then like one thing we would not know about looking at you is that he can be well-planned, cautious, and articulate, but he can also swing into being spontaneous. So I think he's got to keep that in check. But yeah, no, one more thing I'll say, and I'll give him a clap up for this as well. He says in his hot takes that we need to go back to 2 tribes, bring back the auction, and get rid of journeys. They're BS, they're old, they're done. So I will give him all the praise for classic Survivor. Bring it back.
Yep. All right. Next, we have Sam, 24 years old, from Illinois, that currently lives in Nashville. He is a sports reporter. Again, common theme of the season. Passionate, stubborn, and ambitious is how he describes himself. He says playing Survivor is his childhood dream. He loves both mental and physical competition. Survivor is the greatest game ever created. His daily work life has built him for this game. Working in professional sports as a media member forces you to excel at ego stroking, asking the right questions, building relationship, and capitalizing on information. As somebody who works in sports media myself, I could say that I think he's stretching that a little bit, but I respect it. His job relies on relationship building much more than mine. But I thought this was interesting. He says he will Identify most with Michelle Fitzgerald because there was so much more to her appearance, more to her than her appearance. Played the game twice with grit. Also says he may play the game like Devin Pinto. I know, Ryan, you love a great Devin Pinto reference.
Love it.
He built relationships, gave up control early, and didn't have to be the alpha, made it run late. He wants predictability in an alliance partner, somebody who presents as playing more strategic so they could hide his own wit. He loves playing trivia, critiquing movies, working out, pet peeves. Nothing here that nothing here that would be an issue out there. Foreign present using an accent to say a foreign word correctly when they're not from there. Overconfident sports fans, leaving the door too open in the sauna and wasting the heat. His most accomplishment is landing a full-time job as an NFL beat reporter at 22. Also, he says he did the arts, so he's more smarter than he looks. He did musical theater, drama, and slam poetry. As he could gel, he will be sole survivor because he could gel with any group of people. He is a physical, strategic, and social force that will never be perceived as the strongest, smartest, or loudest person in the room, and he's gritty. I think that Sam is kind of saying all the right things, right? I have like a lot of hope for him based on what he's saying. He's somebody that presents as like this big physical threat, but yet he plans on playing the game socially and presenting as not playing strategically, which I think is a super key. We literally just saw D win like that. We've seen Michelle, he compares himself to, win like that. We've seen Devin Pinto, he compares himself to Devin Pinto, do the same thing and go all the way far. We've seen Kenzie win based on her social game. So I really think like he has the right idea. I'm worried and wondering if his like appearance will allow him to do such a thing, or if his like he looks pretty big, like will that prevent him from playing that type of game and not being perceived as like a physical threat.
Yeah, no, I really like Sam a lot. Like you said, he's saying all the right things. He kind of comes off as like that stereotypical, like you said, the survivor player that you want to play like. I'm not going to lie, Dylan. I thought actually Sam or the next guy we're going to come up here in a second, we're going to be the person that you said was one of your winner picks, just based on what I thought. And no, I think it's really cool. He's a sports reporter. I mean, he currently lives in Nashville, and if you go to his Twitter, it's like a bunch of Titan stuff. Titans preparing for week 1, so it's kind of cool to see him go from that to like I'm on Survivor. Love the answer of saying you want to play like Michelle. I think that, especially as everybody used to say, like, oh, I'm the Parvati, I'm the Rob, I'm the Sandra. Like, I mean, you want to play like Michelle. You want to play like one of the only people in Survivor history. I think I should know this. I'm kind of I need to refresh my memory. I think Michelle's the only person to play more than twice or play 2 or more times and not be voted out. I could be wrong.
Yeah, Amanda, I guess, and then Amanda was she? Well, until Here's Villains, I should say.
Until she got voted out, yeah. So I think So yeah, I mean, she's never been voted out, Michelle, and she's one of the best social players of all time. So great that you want to play like her, and like you said, I love a good Devin Pinto reference. I think Sam, like you said, is saying all the right stuff. I think he can go very far. Again, my only concern about him, and I hate to just go back to the age, I feel like 24, is he going to come off as impressionable? Are people going to want to give him the money if he's, 24 years old? I mean, yeah, he obviously, like you said, he has his fiance, so he's, getting married young, starting his life. So I don't know how much the people will want to vote for him in the end, but I think if he can make the right relationships and, come off as, impressionable, and he can also connect with a lot of people, I think he can do very well.
Yep, for sure. Next, we have Andy, 31 years old from Buffalo, who is an AI research assistant. That's pretty cool. Describes himself as frenetic, warm, and creative. He says he's wanted to play Survivor for the last decade. He said his life didn't make much sense unless he actually played Survivor. He described himself as like a super fan. He says he was a finalist for casting last cycle, came so close but didn't get there, and then eventually now he's here. Identifies most with Yule for being a triple threat Goliath. Truly inspirational Asian representation, but he thinks he'll play most like Omer. He stresses his good new era game. He wants somebody who is, as an alliance partner, who is not willing to win at all costs, but is like more loyal than that. Says that he's his favorite hobbies are minesweeper, road trips, even though he can't drive, and being a K-pop stan.
Yeah.
Pet peeves: people obsessed with grammar, people walking behind their cherry-picked statistics. Um, he's leaving. He left his data analyst job at big tech to get a master's in AI. He also got a research paper published as a first author and an award for outstanding achievement in computational linguistics. Comes across as carefree, but has an excessive amount of hyperactive fit thinking. Um, he says that he will be the sole survivor because he feels like he's two good players smushed into one. His great powers are his ability to charm and disarm people from all walks of life, and his ability to crunch numbers and pinch. He's confident that he can always find the right vote split plurality option, and he could use his social bonds to execute on it. I think you said this before, Ryan. You said you're like he's like the common for sure making the merge. I think I agree. Like you could pencil this guy into making the merge. Super smart. Kind of like I don't know if it's because like they kind of look alike. He reminds me a little bit of like an older Austin. And they had like similar I don't even know if it was similar. It's not similar jobs because Austin was like a marketing master's guy. He's more like, but Austin was also like super smart, like U Chicago. He's like, Andy also seems like super smart, like got his master's in artificial intelligence. Like he says he presents as like a lax, but like in his mind, he's like firing on all cylinders. Like that's the type of player that I'm looking for when I'm looking for a guy who could have a lot of success in this game. So I'm a big fan of Andy.
I like Andy too, and Dylan, you're spot on. If you watch his video, he says at the end that he's like, people are going to look at me as an Austin, somebody who is solid, dependable, but beatable. Austin didn't win in the end, and he's like, and if people think, oh, Andy's very similar, where Andy looks like he's got it all, but like I can beat him in the end. He's like, great, I want to use that to my advantage. So he's self-aware. I really do like Andy a lot. Like you said, feels like a chalk pick to make the merge, and I feel like people will want to pick him as like one of their winner picks or one of their finalist picks at least. He mentions, identifying with Yule and Omer. I think obviously two really, really great choices. One winner, one non-winner that are both good at the game. I have really high hopes for Andy, and I also liked his hot take because I didn't even consider this, but it's so true. He's like the hidden immunity idol at this point is honestly overrated. Like when you look at the new era, the only winner to hold an idol is Marianne. Like I mean, Gabler had the one where it was like the one-time use, but he didn't use it. But no, like Erica, Gabler, D, Jam, and Kenzie, none of them needed advantages. Kind of like Tommy and 39, they kind of just use their social and strategic abilities. They didn't really need to rely on gimmicks, and I kind of agree with him. And he even mentions like in 46, he goes, how many people go home with idols in their pockets because they either share it or it makes them do certain things. And like he's like, the real power is like knowing where things are, and I do agree with that. Like if you know where something is, especially if that person's not aware that that's so much information. The whole thing about knowledge is power is knowing where things are. So I do think he has a good mind for the game, and I have high hopes for him.
Yes, for sure. All right, Sue, 59 years old from New York, but it's I could be wrong. Kirkwood, Putnam Valley, that has to be upstate. Flight school owner. Describes herself as badass, fearless, adrenaline junkie. It's been a lifelong dream since the first episode. She's a competitor. She's excited to see how she holds up during the most exciting adventure of her life. What a thrill. She wants the title. She wants to be a legend. What's prepared her? She grew up on an island with generations of family poor, no drinking water, no hot showers, no heat. Had to schlep water to the water well with jugs for water, jump in a river to bathe, start a fire for cold days. Grandparents only had an outhouse. She said she'll be a combo of Tony and Suri. LOL. We all know alliances are temporary, so she's not expecting much from anybody. They're all gonna lie to each other. Hobbies are all athletic stuff. Again, racquetball, tennis, snow skiing, ice skating, building stone fireplaces, making mantles or wood columns. Her pet peeve is one-uppers, people who talk too much about stuff that no one cares about. energy drainers, people who are negative and complain all the time. Um, she's most proud of packing her bags, $20 to her name, and leaving a toxic, dysfunctional, abusive environment at 21 years old. That is where her life truly began. Um, she's a she's a Sigma female and an introvert, but you would never know that from looking at her. Okay. I thrive to be a championship. To be a champion. She doesn't want a pat on the back. She wants people to. She believes she's powerful, but she treats people with kindness. She'll always defend the underdog. Um, she's gonna win Soul Strider because she's a badass. She's not afraid of anyone or anything. I will take the lead and follow my gut. I will take out the threats and work on manipulating others to do what I suggest. They will see. They will see. They will see. Following me will help to get them far, and all will respect how I played. That last sentence I don't understand, but okay. Sue, my immediate thought is that there's potential for like the character of the season. I don't know how long that lasts, but there's something here. It's clearly understandable how she got casted. Nothing else to say really. I think she's going to be a huge character on the season, whether she's the first boot or whether she makes the merge.
Saying it now, Sue will be the most entertaining person this season. And like you just said, Dylan, this is a character. I think they, just from her video and just from some funny stuff I've seen online, I think they just character-wise struck gold. I'm not saying she's going to be like on Carolyn level, because Carolyn is, obviously up there in terms of all-time characters, but like I think Sue is going to be so much fun to watch. She's 59. She wants to be the oldest female winner to pass Denise's title. Like you said, she's not going to back down. She's not going to take shit from anyone. She says that she's in the in the flight field, being a flight school owner, and it's a male dominated pilot world, and she's like not putting up with any of it. I don't think she's going to be afraid to clash with anyone on her tribe, and while that could spell disaster for her, I mean it's great for us from a TV perspective. So like you said, Dylan, I don't know where I see Sue going. I mean, obviously with the older player curse, could she be out early? Sure. But Carolyn made it far, Tiffany made it to the merge, who knows? But no, I think I'm planting my flag that Sue will be the most fun player to watch this season.
Yep, I completely agree. All right, we got a couple more left. A few more left, I should say. Caroline, 27 years old, currently lives in Chicago, but is from California. Strategy consultant. She's adventurous, enthusiastic, supportive. It's been her dream to be on Survivor since she was 5 years old. She loved watching how happy people were when it won a challenge when she was older, and she began to understand how grueling and tough it was and fell more in love with the show. Her experience repair is flying to Chile to backpack the Patagonia W trek. It was fantastic endurance training. She resonates with Tori and Emily, but she loved to play like D. Her strategy drove the game. She wants an alliance partner who thinks that they could beat her in the final tribal, and who thinks that she could also beat, who she thinks she could also beat. And alliances that are the most dynamic ones. These alliances are the most dynamic ones and ones that actually last and dominate the game. Her hobbies, just watching a bunch of theme competitions, trying new foods, biking, traveling. Clearly, I think she's going to be another kind of athlete. Pet peeves are incompetency and loud chewers. People who ask you to complete something by a deadline and then send a follow-up before the deadline, that should not be an issue. She played a ton of water sports growing up, swimming, surfing, scuba diving. Again, almost everybody on the cast is athletic. One thing that I love about this is that like the last few seasons, like, all right, Hunter dominated everything. Jonathan dominated everything. Like there's always been like one guy who's just been like the clear threat physically. And now there's like 20 of them. Like literally everyone in the cast could 18 of them. Everybody in the cast is athletic. I love it. Mm-hmm. She says that she will be the sole survivor. The complete answer to this will take too long to write. She'll just say that she's preparing this for a long time. She has the grit, determination, and expertise to win. And because of that, I feel like I have absolutely nothing from her. I don't know what to think. That's not a bad thing. I cannot get a read on her based on what she says. Strategy consultant, she has to be somewhat smart. Clearly will be a little bit athletic based on what she says. I don't know what else to think.
Yeah, I can see that perspective. I think Caroline is somebody who comes off in her video as very competitive, strong-willed. She did, like the water polo. She has a very strong mentality. She's obviously very driven. She talks about in her video how she, structured some of her classes in college to like align with what you need to survive to succeed in business, but also in Survivor, like selling yourself, power and organizational structure. Like she's clearly gearing herself up for Survivor from a mental and a physical standpoint. So I think she could be well prepared to play the game. I think that she, like I said, she could come off as like pretty strong and competitive, which, could bode well for her in the early game if her tribe wants to keep her around for her strength and looking at what tribe she's on. And I think, if she's, that competitive, the tribe could use her. But again, if you are that strong minded, that could also, rub some people the wrong way. I know you, Dylan, would appreciate the Tori answer. In terms of the previous player, yes. Dylan's like, screw the Omers and the Shans and the Jessies, bring back Tori.
Bring back Tori.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Tori and Emily is just from a TV perspective, amazing TV answer. As a player, I'm glad she threw in D there at the last minute. But yeah, no, Caroline, I think she could do well. But to me, Dylan, when she mentions Tori and Emily, she also, to me, says like could make the merge, could be that person that wins the first immunity challenge or two at the merge and gets like targeted. Like, all right, guys, Caroline, and then if she loses, she's got to go.
But, yeah, I see that. That makes sense. Then we have, I believe you said to pronounce her name Asia. Is that?
Yeah, Asia, like the continent. Yeah.
Okay. 32 years old from Texas. She is an IT consultant and also, I believe, a RHAP podcaster.
Yeah.
Again, so many podcasters on this season. So that's the theme. Athlete podcasters. They should have just thrown. They could have thrown Draymond on the season.
Yeah.
Overachiever, unique and joyful. Started watching Survivor when she was 12. Her mom watched season 1, so that put her on. She always thought it was like too hard, but she's ready for that challenge right now. One life experience is prepared for the game is during Hurricane Harvey. Her apartment got 1 foot of water. She had to, get through the water to get her dad. And it was waist deep and there were snakes and creatures in there. And it, told her that she could get through anything. She identifies most with Sari because of her ability to connect with people. And also physicality of Natalie Anderson, lost 10 pounds of fat, gained 5 pounds of muscle in preparation. By strength training. She values blind loyalty in an alliance. Her favorite hobbies, playing basketball, going to escape room, long walks with her dog, watching TV, working out, drinking cider at a cidery or wine at a winery. Also, pet peeves, people who are loud in quiet places, people who chew to the point that you could identify what meal they're on, people who don't listen, people who oppose the ideas that dogs could be someone's children. Hold on, I actually zoomed in here a little bit. Okay. She bought her first house at 29. So that's what she's proud of. She is super competitive. The objective is to win, goals to win, does not care if it's trivia on Facebook Messenger. Broke up with her ex because she beat him in 1v1 basketball and he threw a temper tantrum. I love it. Her mom is her biggest inspiration, and she believes she'll be underestimated. She'll use her social game to push her through while unveiling her competitiveness when it matters most. Then at Final Tribal, she'll be able to clearly articulate her strategy to get there. Yeah, she's a threat for sure to win the game. I feel pretty good about her. For a lot of reasons. Another athlete, but also like clear understanding of the game. She podcasts about the show. Or at least she podcasts about reality TV. I believe does she do Survivor podcast specifically?
She does like Survivor, Big Brother, and then some other reality TV shows.
Yeah. I feel pretty good about this. Also, she compares herself to Sari, a blend of Sari and Natalie. I like that. Yeah. My only concern would be like she almost stressed like how like her drive is always to win, and that worries me. Like, will she make a big move like too soon? Will she like try too hard and it'll become clear? But I've pretty high hopes for Asia.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm going to come off as completely biased because, I know Asia from Rob as a podcast. And I don't know her in person, but it's probably the first person on Survivor in a new person season that like I know of before they play the game. So obviously, like I have my own, thoughts and perceptions, but, I really do think Asia's going to do well. Obviously, like you said, being a podcaster and podcasting about Survivor and Big Brother, she knows these games, she knows strategy, and like she says in her why you'll be the sole survivor, like being underestimated, but using her social game to push her through and then winning when it matters most. Like, I mean, she gets it. I think in the new era, you can't be the tallest stick of bamboo because they'll get chopped off. And then when you like again, War Dog takes out Kelly, he gets chopped off. Like this happened in 42 with Hai, Andrea, and Omer. So you can't be the biggest person in the room. And if you can be underestimated and use your social game, that will carry you far. So I really have high hopes for Asia. Again, going to be biased, but I hope she does really well. The only thing I have for her, honestly, is that she talks in her video about how, she's very sociable, likes to talk to people. And if they don't seem like they want to get to know her, or they seem unapproachable, she's going to make it her mission to, become their friend. So the only thing that I worry about is I think back to some of these recent seasons where someone's like, oh my God, this person is so sociable. This person is so likable. And that worries me just because I feel like same thing happened with Caleb, where everyone was like day one on the beach, like Caleb is like the most charismatic guy in the world. So I think Asia, obviously, like you said, has the skill sets to do very, very well. I just hope, people don't look at her and go, wow, too likable. She's got to go. But we'll see what happens.
Yep. All right. Sierra, one of many on the show.
A lot of Sierras.
27 years old. Originally from Delaware, now lives in Pennsylvania. By the way, I'm going to read through a lot of this because I thought she had one of the more energetic bios I've ever seen in my entire life. It's hard to like convey a lot of energy in a bio. She found the way to do that at the max level. She's a nurse, which again, I like that. 3 words to describe her: ambitious, intuitive, and hoot. I was born for the game of Survivor. I was born for the game of Survivor! Exclamation point. My social and physical abilities are about to thrive. Survivor was a big part of her upbringing. Your girl loves a good challenge! Exclamation point. When she applied, people laughed and said, "You can never." And then she said, "Oh, you watch." And here we are. Plus, I'm getting sick of monthly payments towards 100K student debt. Could really use the mill. Ton of exclamation points throughout that paragraph. She worked in the service industry for more than 12 years. That's another good occupation that I think is important. Really armed her with skills needed to communicate. No matter how difficult of a customer, if you want to make money, you had to bounce back quick. That's my Survivor mentality. Smile and wave, baby. Smile and wave. Compares herself to Steph LaGrossa. That's a good comp. I think I can kind of see it. We have a ton. She says we love a Delco girl. That's like PA area, Philly area. She's just a blast, dominated Palau, inspiration, perfect example of achieving anything with resilience. Love for sports is in common with her. Again, I mean, literally, was this a prerequisite for the season? I don't know. She says loves JT and Token Jeans mixed with Tony and D, of course. She values laughter and a good time in a alliance partner. She has to make the most of it. Stranded on the island. Show me you're genuine and trustworthy and will dominate. I think that's actually like a pretty good approach. I think like a lot of people like if she's just looking for somebody she'll vibe with, that's a good sign to me. Favorite hobbies: pickleball, crabbing on the boat, rock climbing. Also a beer pong girl, minus the beer, sub a seltzer. Heck, put a water in them. I love that damn game. Clapping when the plane lands. Slow walkers, or saying no offense, I'm kidding when you're not kidding. She says she was never science girly, but she received her nursing degree in 17 months. She could say the alphabet backwards in 5 seconds, touch her tongue to her nose, and was an Irish step dancer for 10 years. She says that if there was she could be sole survivor because if there's one thing you know about her, she'll work her ass off at everything. There is no such thing as 100% in her book. It's 150% or nothing. I plan to follow suit here. I also say she's a pretty good time. Her laughter is contagious. She just hopes her tribe will feel the same. My friends tell me my laughter is contagious. I just hope my friends but the tribe will tell me the same. She practiced the last year, so I expect the 4 a.m. gym wake-up calls to shine through in challenges. Okay. I don't know what to expect at all in terms of the game. I could tell you she will be entertaining. My worry is that like her being like this causes her to go out early if she's in with the wrong people. At the same time, I could see how she like socially is very good in the game. So it's a double-edged sword that she is so like outgoing, but we'll see how that works. I'm going to be a fan of her though.
Yeah. You know what's crazy is that I watched her video and she's 27, nurse, blonde. Like, Dylan, do you remember Survivor Heroes Hustlers? I mean, this is gonna be a deep pull, but do you remember Jessica?
No.
Yeah, yeah,
maybe,
exactly.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit.
She was the one that was like kind of attached to Cole.
Okay.
But like Dylan, to me, it's almost like a spitting image. Like they look very similar, both late 20s nurse practitioners. And I remember when I drafted that season, I remember drafting Jessica because I'm like, she's got it all. She's gonna win. And I remember she got taken out at the merge. But no, I really, really like Sierra. I think salon owner, flight attendant. I think nurse is a great profession for the game. Cerie's a nurse. I really do think getting to connect with patients and being their therapist, really can help you connect with people. Actually, this is not in her bio, Dylan, but she is a former Miss Delaware. So she's got the competitive nature from the pageant world. And like she said, she's very athletic. She was a Phillies ball girl. So I think she really has like the total package here. Like you said, if she's like coming off as very energetic and, intense in the bio, how's that going to translate to the island, like you mentioned? But we'll see how it goes. I mean, I do think Sierra could do well.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by her, to say the least. And then we have Solomon. So I'll just call him Solomon for now. Who is the last one and has the shortest bio by far. And is 43, so one of the older guys on this cast, the oldest guy, I believe, on the cast, second oldest on the cast. Originally from Oklahoma, now lives in Connecticut, does medical device sales, which is exactly what Gabler did. Witty, friendly, lucky, wants to be part of Survivor, but because besides Oklahoma football, again, another sports reference, Survivor is what he loves the most. I have everything I've ever wanted in life, and now I get to play my favorite game. He says he feels prepared because his parents were never home. He had to figure it out on his own because his parents worked 2 jobs. They were rarely home. Identifies most with Gabler because they were both in medical device sales and have a strong ability to build bond and self-awareness. Adam because of strategy, and Tyson because he wants to win people over with his charm. He wants people in an alliance to keep their mouths shut and sticking to the plan while also being adaptable. If need be, their ability to act. Favorite hobbies: poker, working out, personal growth, eating kimchi. His pet peeve is treating people in the service industry like crap. He says, be kind. He's most accomplishment. What is the accomplishment you're most proud of? He says, take a look at my wife. Something you would never know about him. He used to live with international pop sensation Ryan Cabrera. He said his biggest inspiration is that this will all come to an end. Once I realized and accepted this, my second life started. He will be soul survivor because he has more than willpower. He has soul power. I have no clue what to think. I need to watch the video for this. I haven't not watched the videos yet. But yeah, I really have nothing based on that. He didn't give us much. Medical device sales, interesting. Had to figure it out on his own when he was young. Don't know what to think. What do you think of him?
Well, another Gabler reference being a medical device sale, so
Yeah.
I guess that could bode well. Um, I thought Saul was interesting. I thought Saul had a very interesting video. I mean, he talks about his medical device background. He says that he plays poker, which should be good for Survivor, but I feel like
Right.
poker players don't have the best track record on Survivor, so that makes me a
Right.
little nervous. But I feel like he is one of the Dylan. What is he? 40. What is this? What are you saying?
43, 43 years old.
Yeah, so he skews towards one of the older people in the cast. So again, if the cast is skewing towards like late 20s, early 30s, how well is he going to connect with the others? But you know what? I think Saul is somebody who has potential. I mean, it's not somebody who I feel like I say, oh, like a chalk pick, like somebody who I think is immediately going to be like a winner contender. But you never know. I think in the new era, and I guess I'll end the cast bio by saying like, we've seen a whole bunch of different types of winners in the new era, from Dee to Gabler to Marianne to Jam Jam. So I think the game has evolved to a certain point. So what we typically looked for back in the day, we're no longer really looking for. So I do think that Saul, has potential, and I think he could do well.
All right, that'll cap it off. Let's go through the tribes real quick for 5 minutes.
Yes, I also was trying to stall because I have the names right here, but I was looking for the image to pull up. But I can quickly read it out to you, and then we can always scroll up and down if we need to. So basically what we have is the red tribe is Asia, Genevieve, and Teeny,
Mm-hmm.
and then Rome, Saul, and Kashan.
Okay. I have immediate worries for that team physically.
Yeah. And I mean, again, not like the weakest compared to other tribes we've seen in the new era. We've seen, I think, some weaker, but like we said, I think it could be in some trouble. Yellow tribe is Sierra, Rachel, Annika, John, Sam, and Andy.
Okay.
I think that tribe could be doing well. And then the blue tribe is Dylan's winner pick, Tiana.
Yeah.
Sue, Caroline, TK, Gabe, and Kyle. I think the blue tribe is our strong tribe, personally.
Gabe and Kyle. Yeah, I think blue and yellow have the upper hand in terms of challenges. I'd probably rank them blue, yellow. Who are the guys on yellow and the girls? Just read yellow again.
Sierra, who's the nurse, graphic designer Rachel, consultant Annika, and then podcaster John, NFL reporter Sam, and then Andy, who was the
I think yellow and blue above red for sure. We'll see though. I don't really have too much to say other than that on the tribes. I think it's hard to. I don't want to sit here and predict tribe dynamics. Because I think it's pretty tough. But yeah, what do you think? Any thoughts from you?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, like I said, I think that this cast is overall much more physical, much more well-rounded than some of the other casts we've seen. So while I don't think it's like, last season where we're like, oh my God, like purple is in danger and they were in danger. I mean, I think on paper, just looking at the tribes, actually it's gonna be a little hard to see like here, but like, basically I do think the red tribe, on paper probably is the weakest physically, and then the blue tribe on the bottom is probably the strongest physically. But you know what? Anything could happen, but I do think it is a bit more well-rounded.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that if that's the case. But yeah, that will do it. We will be back in 2 weeks to recap the premiere of Survivor 47. They're actually Bryce and Wendell are having a premiere party in New York that night. I've tossed around the idea of going, so we'll see. I don't know if that happens or not. If it does, I will be sure to come back with stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see.
That could be a lot of fun. Yeah, no, I'm excited for the season, Dylan. I don't think we just really quickly, I don't think we know anything in terms of like rumors, in terms of like, will there be a swap? Will there be an auction? I don't think we have any inside intel on what the season's going to be. And I don't think that because I even remember back in 44 they showed like the cage for a second, so I don't think we even saw a tease of what the new season will be about. So you know what, anything can happen. I guess we'll see. All I'm hoping for, and I know this is not going to happen, is something different, whether it's a tribe swap or whether it's the auction again. Just something different is what I hope for. So.
Yep, I do hope for the same.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that'll do it. And like always, I'm losing it here. I'm losing it.
Usually you say follow us on Survivor at Soul Survivor Pod.
No, I was gonna say like always, and then you were gonna go into the.
Final. Oh, okay. So I missed the mark. So that's on me. Okay.
No, it's all good. I at first I was like, wait, I was like, am I gonna say something here? And then I was like, oh no, you're up.
No, you're good.
So like always, Ryan.
No, so like always, for the first time this season of 47, grab your torches and head back to camp.
Good night.